election in those states, and candidates, so many other candidates are casting their ballot from the reports we're getting in. Most of the candidates have cast their ballot as at now. Now, let me come to you. It's good to have you, Asukwa James, in the studio talking about what's going on right there. Now, the point there is, first of all, where to start from is the issue of arrival of materials. We hear in some of the polling units, materials arrived 30 minutes or even more ahead of time. Now, there are other places where, as at 9 o'clock, they were still waiting for party agents to come. Others are waiting for election materials and also election officials. Talk to us basically in this mix.
You know, the one thing people don't know, they just think Edo State is just one small state, and when everybody's always talking about Benin City, you know. But if you want to, if you know, just like you, I know you've been in Benin for a very long time. Benin, once you get to Benin, to even access to go to other towns, it takes a very long time. You can spend like 3 hours even going from Benin to Auchi and to some other
We have
places.
the riverine communities,
yes, exactly.
And then there are other areas where the roads are not very accessible.
Exactly. So people should also take that into cognizance, even though the materials were actually distributed yesterday, but it will still take a lot of time, you know, for them to also assess those the wards, the different wards in the state. But be that as it may, there was also this complaint by Ayo Zubaku this morning that even in the city center, materials didn't get there early. Even when they actually moved the voting as well as accreditation and all from 8 o'clock to 8:30, we still had that issue. Yes, there will be some teething problems, you know, from INEC, but we know we'll still get there. According to Yaga this morning, from the assessment as at 7:30, they actually scored INEC 39%. You know, so it means INEC will still have to work.
A lot of work,
you know,
a lot of grounds to be covered
on trying to get election done at the time that it has been slated.
Really important. Now, another issue of concern is that this is the first governorship election since the pandemic, COVID-19.
Exactly.
And people expect that the protocols are going to be a little different from the way it used to be and what they are used to. And that has to do with when you arrive, the issue of physical distancing, and then the issue of wearing a face mask, and also washing hands, points for people to wash hands here and there or use hand sanitizers. We're not seeing a lot of that.
I think it's not everywhere. It's not going to be everywhere because from what we've seen so far, it's just a very few voting points that would have said, okay, fine, before you get into the voting area, you have to go, you have to take your temperature, wash your hands, and all that. It's a very difficult situation. You know, it's very, very difficult for INEC. From this, I want to believe they are going to move forward to see how and what the pros and the cons. But if you look at some of the polling units, they had their sanitizer, but no water to wash their hands and all that. And so I know it's going to be very tough for INEC to keep that. But you also have to talk about the people, the voters. When they say stand at a particular point, did you stand? You know, so it boils down to the responsibility
to the voters
of
complying
the voters.
to all of those.
To the protocols. So the voters, did they also comply to the social distancing? Did they tell them to stand because if you look at it, everybody wants to just vote and leave. That is why you are seeing people crowded in a particular area. They are not keeping to the 2 meters, you know, which is the protocol that everybody is supposed to keep. And even when some people are told to stay at a particular place, they want to shun the queue and all that. So it's for us to also be responsible to ourselves. Even face mask, which INEC said, if you don't have your face mask, you can't vote. So we, as voters, will also have to take responsibility in that. You can't tell INEC to start policing everybody. We are talking about more than 1 million registered voters. 2.2 million.
2.2 million.
In general, you know, but we know that at the end of the day, not that 2.2 will vote. You understand? But the number that INEC, you can't say INEC should start waiting for people and saying if you don't go back. They don't want to disenfranchise anybody. And that is why INEC has sent out these messages, the message, and say, fine, before you come, make sure you have your face mask. Make sure you also observe the 2 meter. When once you are coming, you know that you are going to stand. When they tell you to stand at a particular spot, be there, because we know that you are just going to go there, check your name, and then from there, the process will go on. And from there, you vote.
All right, let's get into one of the incident that just happened now. We understand one person has been shot around Ologbo in Ikpoboka local government. That's within Benin City, you know, and it draws our attention to the issues of security. Recall that about 31,000 police officers were deployed to Edo State for this election, besides the issue of secret police, the SSS, and all of that. Now, how challenging is it going to be for security agents to ensure that violence and all of that doesn't happen?
Well, the police can be everywhere, but they need to see how.
So that is to say the 31,000 is still not adequate.
Still not enough. During the Osun election, they had 40,000 police officers, you know. But for now, I want to say that nothing has happened. Yeah. We just want to believe
so far. From all the reports we're getting in.
And even before the election, you know how the tensions were high, you know, and everybody was saying, "Oh, fine, yeah, the Edo is going to boil," and things like that. But for now, I want to still assess the situation as being that the police is taking care of things. This can just be an isolated case, which we do not want to preempt that is going to snowball into something else. You know, something else. So we want to believe that the security situation will be, you know, will be handled by the police as well as every other security agencies are there, because we know that the civil defense, the DSS, the Nigerian Army, I heard what they decided to do was not to go into the polling unit, but to stay around the border, you know, the borderline and border towns. So nobody comes in with anything, and nobody tries to take out anything, you know. So for now, we want to just give the security officials a little bit of time. Let's see, by the time the vote counting, collation and counting starts, then we want to know if anything will happen. For now, this should just be an isolated case, which I believe that by now the police is supposed to tell us that those who actually caused that, who actually shot at any voter, has been arrested. Yeah. Because that is what we need to do, so that it sends that signal to every other one that wants
who intends to create any
so that
situation.
Everybody knows that it is election. This is just an election.
It's meant to be a carnival.
You know, exactly. So in other countries, when election comes, they are always happy. Because
you recall in Lagos State, for instance, in the last election, where some people volunteered to set up canopies and cook rice and you know meat, and people were having fun.
This election, from all intent and purpose, is about brothers. You know, because if you look at it, the two major candidates are from the same senatorial zone. So these brothers at the end of the day, and you see when during the peace accord, they embraced each other. So people should not kill because they want one particular person to win or not. All everybody is looking for is good governance.
There's always the talk about the issue of supporters being more reactive than the people themselves who are contending against each other.
Like they say.
You remember when the Oba of Benin, called everyone together, and you know the role of Oba of Benin in stabilizing. He's a pillar of stability and focus in the entire kingdom. And he called everyone. At that point, it was the first place where they saw each other after a period of time of campaigning and all of that, and they embraced each other, and everything was okay. And then the second one was the peace pact, which they signed. Now, talk to us about that impact of that on the process themselves.
Yeah, I think that meeting with the Oba was very vital. It came at the right time, because if you notice, before that meeting, the tension was I can't even imagine. Because, people were already thinking that if the Oba did not step in at that period, then there won't be election.
Ugly.
There won't even be election, because that was when people were already saying that election in Edo might likely be postponed. So the Oba did I want to say, a yeoman's job by calling them, to speak to them, to talk to them, and every other political
All right.
party.
Now, the visuals you are watching now is Earlier, former Governor Oshomole casting his ballot there earlier, just moments earlier in his local government, and he expressed concern regarding the issue of
Card reader.
Card reader.
Yes.
One or two card readers not working well, but I understand that has been fixed so far.
Yeah, because you actually said a lot of things about the card reader, saying that the card reader is not reading the fingerprint of the elderly, the old people voter, and that they are supposed to, be given preference. And they've been voting for there in that particular ward and unit for a very long time, and so he's wondering why the card reader is not, identifying their fingerprint. But this happens, this technology. So I know with time, INEC will be able to address that. It's not that they are going to be disenfranchised. No, they are not. So everybody should calm down.
We understand that INEC usually has a backup.
To all of
so
these there's
things.
always
So
a backup.
When something happens, they deploy something to handle,
exactly.
and
so
that has been handled.
So you should just, calm down. And
one other issue, Asukwa, is the issue of restriction of movement that has been an issue of debate here and there. In the 21st century, a lot of people have said, we don't need to restrict movement. But others have said, well, considering our peculiarity and the realities on ground, if you don't restrict movement, then there's going to be volatility in the entire land. You'll recall that people are going to be traveling. Edo State is very strategic. If you're coming from the north to the south, or you're coming from the south to the east, wherever you're going to, you go through Edo State somehow. And now if you shut the state down, I wonder how the experience is going to be for those who are traveling and who are not supposed to have anything to do with Edo State today.
No, that is another function, that is another problem people are talking about when we have staggered elections like this, the off-season election, because it affects a particular state. Just like you have said, this is Edo. In the next couple of weeks, in the next 1 month or so, we'll be talking about Ondo.
Which is in the same axis.
In the same axis. And so people who have been travelers, people who have businesses and all that to go to other states, they will be affected. So the best, we should find a way to see how elections can be held once.
Okay.